welcome to Basement Fodder, the only show whose hosts not only put your princess in another castle, but are taking dirty pictures of her while you're out there fighting Goombas. I'm Ty.
I'm Dave.
Goombas.
Goombas are lame.
Dirty mushrooms.
Man.
Oh, man. This has been an interesting week for franchises, I think, as far as box office-wise go. I want to talk about Underworld, because you and I are both big fans of the Underworld franchise.
Yeah.
The first movie blew my mind years ago when it first came out. It was like the movie that the World of Darkness, Vampire Masquerade people were always waiting for.
Yeah.
It was like Vampire the Masquerade without calling it that, basically, because it was so much from World of Darkness, and it was just such a mind blower. And then 2 came out, and 2 was a good movie.
2 was like a direct continuation of the first one. It kind of basically just latched on and was like one giant movie.
Yeah, kind of.
1 and 2 were basically.
And it had its flaws. Like, there were some problems with it and stuff, and there were some CG issues with a few things, but overall, it's a good, watchable movie. Yeah. Then 3 happened, and of course, 3 is by far my favorite.
Yeah.
Because it's the prequel story, which I think is actually more interesting. Like, I feel like Rona Mitra's character's story is more interesting than Celine. Like, I think she's more of a badass, like, as far as, like, and plus it's a medieval thing, and it's the origin story.
I think I think before Celine got all badass, they were probably like she was more of a badass. But like once 2 happened, she's stopped, like Rona Mitra couldn't hold a candle to her. I
don't know. I find her more interesting than Celine. Like I love Kate Beckinsale. Don't get me wrong, but I know I kind of like. And then plus it's just such a good story, and you get all that Michael Sheen in there.
Yeah,
which is
Lucian.
Like because there's nothing more disappointing than at the end of 2, of 1 that he's dead.
Yeah, you're like
fuck, it's Michael Sheen. Why? Like Lucian, no.
Lucian's the coolest like fucking character in there. And they're like, no, we're just gonna fucking off him and shit. It's
so great because like 1 and 2 kind of give you that little spark, and you get a little bit of what the origin is, and you find out like with Bill Nye's character and like what he did to his own daughter and all that. But then when you get 3, you find out the full story, which kind of makes it even more heartbreaking when you see the whole thing.
Yeah,
and like it really highlights that class struggle between werewolves and vampires that is so evident throughout the entire series, and is like really a basis in the entire series is that class struggle between the two, and that there is no. Like, in the first one, they kind of introduce it as vampires are the good guys, but really, ultimately, they're not. You know? There is no real good guy or bad guy. It's just more like one class trying to repress another.
Just in that one. Actually, through the series, it actually flips.
Yeah. And the werewolves, to me, I've always kind of rooted for the werewolves, but that's because I like werewolves more than vampires.
That ends at 3.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Like, as much as I love the werewolves, 3 is the last one where they're viewed as good guys. Mm-hmm. Like, the other ones, not at all.
And the 4th one happened, and the 4th one, like, it wasn't as big a success as the first 3, but it still did pretty damn well.
Yeah.
And it introduced new characters and a continuation, and kind of put Celine a little bit into the background.
Yeah, it introduced David, Theo James' character.
Right.
And he was a vampire. Son of Thomas, who's like an elder vampire in like the future and stuff. So it's an interesting story. She basically like wakes up and it's more in the future, and no longer does humanity not know about vampires and werewolves. Now they know about. Now it's completely out, and like there's basically like fucking mass hit squads where they just go and they fucking eradicate.
This is the one that I didn't see this one, and I haven't seen the current one yet, but you have. But like, then we got Blood Wars, which is the one that just came out, and I was kind of hoping that like this one would kind of be a kickstart, to re-up the franchise and kind of get it back up into the level that it was before. But unfortunately, the box office has been pretty dismal for it.
The problem is like people are still on the superhero kick.
Yeah,
they're not like anything unless it's like Lord of the Rings or some shit like that. Or Harry Potter, any of the like other franchises have fallen by the wayside.
Yeah,
it's all about the superhero shit. Fantasy movies have kind of fallen off to the wayside.
We talked about that before, like with the failures of some other fantasy movies that were really good movies, like Seventh Son and some other ones that we've had in the last few years that really just haven't.
Witch Hunter, a bunch of the different things where it's like they were good movies. It's just time period wise, I think they kind of
Well, that's the question. Like, do you think that it's because like the franchise itself has run out of steam and people don't care about Underworld anymore, or is it more because like it's getting a January release, which January is the death release?
I think it's a combination of things. It's like, one, it's a January. Mm-hmm. If you wanted Underworld to really do well, it should have came out in October.
Yeah,
it really should have.
Yeah,
like.
I see no, and it was done. Like I see no reason why it should have come out in October.
It's one of those. It was just a lack of, support from the network and shit. They put it.
That's what I question. Like, why would these? This is what I don't understand about movie studios, and I'll never understand. Like, why make them? Yeah, why make this movie? Why like put all this money into a movie and make it? And if you're not going to support it when you release it, this doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
like this is a thing that puzzles me about a lot of movies. Like Seventh Son spent over 2 years in development hell and shit after it was finished. It was finished 2 years almost before it came out, and then it came out in January, and they barely promoted it.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is another thing, like, Underworld's been done for a while, and it could have come out last year in October when it would have been a logical time for it to come out, but instead they push it to January because they have no faith in it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at, like, the Warcraft movie, too.
Yeah, like, a movie that was internationally made tons of bank, but then here made barely anything.
And that again comes back to that thing where it's like, it's a mixture. Right now, it's superheroes. Superheroes are hot. Superheroes are what's like everybody's all about.
Yeah.
We're into that phase of the superhero thing, and we're like deep into it too. It's not even like all right at the beginning. Like, this is the deep into it where a lot of movies are suffering because of this. Like love for the superhero movie. A lot of the other ones are falling off on the wayside. Like, show wise, you can watch it at your leisure. A lot of these other shows you can, fantasy based, sci-fi based, you can watch at your leisure, but like when it comes to the movies, like you look at it, when you look at calendars of upcoming movies and stuff, the ones that people are excited about are the superhero ones. People could give a fuck less about any other movie that's coming out other than like kids movies or superhero movies. That's it. Those are the big ones. Like, horror movies are doing well, but I mean that they're still doing well for horror movies.
That's the juxtaposition. Like, the Bye Bye Man movie came out this week, and it was a week after Underworld, and it had less than a $10 million budget and did about $13 million, I think, which is a big success for a movie of that nature.
Yeah.
And like, these are movies that don't cost a lot of money to make, and that's the thing about horror. Horror has always kind of been like a go-to genre because they don't cost a ton of money and they make good money.
Because you do a lot of practical stuff. Yeah, there's not a lot.
But there was barely any, marketing for that movie at all. Like, we saw trailers for it on Hulu, but I don't think I saw more than one commercial on TV for it.
I saw like a few, but that was it. Yeah.
And like, Underworld was actually relatively heavily promoted. Like, in juxtaposition to that.
Yeah.
Like,
I would say it was promoted as well as they promote an average movie.
That's the thing, though. Do you think that like people don't view the Underworld series as horror? They view it as like an action series?
I think it's not necessarily viewed as a horror. I think you hear people say vampires, werewolves, and they're like, oh, horror. But it's not. It's not really like...
It's not like a visceral horror movie.
It's an action-adventure horror kind of thing, you know, in the sense of like... Dracula Untold.
Yeah.
Like, they view it as one thing, and it's kind of not. It's kind of, in a sense, its own small subsect of it. But I think it has a lot to do with, what they're going up against.
Yeah.
People are so tired of, like... When all those summer, Marvel DC movies are kicking out, man, you're looking at like a superhero movie maybe once every 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
Sometimes multiple in a month.
Yeah.
And these people are diehard fans, so they're going to go see these things over and over and over again and stuff. So I mean, they're just sitting here waiting. Like, you see the countdowns and stuff. They're like, oh, I got so many days till Logan and so many days till this, and that's where it's at right now. Like, movie wise. There's that. And then you have your occasional ones that come in, like, the Fantastical Beasts and stuff, because that was a continuation of Harry Potter.
Right.
The Harry Potter movies did fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you still have that. The Hobbit movies came out. Those are connected with Lord of the Rings. Those do fucking phenomenal. Well, like, both money and critically. Underworld did well, But at the same time, if you look at the group that movie's attached with, and that's like modern day goths and stuff, that movie came out when we were all still kind of younger.
Yeah.
And then you look at like that whole society today, the music is dying out, the people are dying out. Like, it's just one of those things where it's becoming more, it's going back to being an underground cult thing.
Yeah, the first Underworld was 2003.
Yeah. 14 years ago.
Well, it's like the juxtaposition to like what like the last Underworld movie before this one, it had a $25 million opening weekend, and this one barely broke 10.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a drop in franchise. Like, what does that say about, like, you know, Tom Cruise has got that upcoming Mummy reboot that's coming out. Like, what does it say for, like, and we saw what Dracula Untold did. Like, what does that say for the attempted reboot of the classic monsters that they've been trying to do?
Now's not the time. Unfortunately, like, now is basically, until that superhero comic movie bubble pops, it's going to be really hard to get things.
Well, I think especially after seeing the trailer for the Mummy reboot, it's like it really has nothing to do with anything from what the trailer has. Like, I saw no mummy in that.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, and the chick's supposed to be the mummy. That's the thing.
Yeah, but like, she looks more like Enchantress from Suicide Squad than a mummy.
And that's the thing. It's like there's so much confusion around this because they're like, oh, we're rebooting the Mummy movie, but then people are like, is it the rebooting the Brendan Fraser one,
or the rebooting like the 1940s?
The 1940s movies one, because if you're saying it's supposed to be connected with like the Dracula Untold, that's the Paramount. That's the rebooting of the black and white ones. This one, I have no. This is basically a big budget action horror.
Like, I swear it looked like fucking Mission Impossible Tom Cruise, like Ethan Hunt fighting like Enchantress from Suicide Squad.
And that's basically what it is. That's because they're not going to be able to get the classic Mummy style stuff back out. You know, you saw the death of the franchise of the Mummies.
Yeah, because the last Mummy movie tanked.
I mean, that one was kind of...
Yeah,
you can't do so many of them doing Egyptian, and then all of a sudden you're going to bust over to like, hold on, we're going to do Chinese.
I get what they were trying to do, and they were trying to like add something new to it and like grow it into something more. But then at the same time, it's such a radical change from what the rest of the movies are about.
Yeah, because you think a Mummy,
it's too much departure.
Yeah, you think Mummy, you're pretty much thinking like Egyptian. You know, I think would have been better if they, instead of doing like Chinese, if they had done South American, Aztecs.
Yeah,
Aztec mummies, like,
because it's closer.
Yeah,
it's just too much of a radical departure.
Yeah,
but then this is like, I just have no faith that this movie's going to make a nickel because Tom Cruise's box office has been shit.
Yeah,
like Jack Reacher did okay, and the second one I don't think he did all that well either. Has it?
I don't know.
Or it hasn't even come out yet.
I don't think it's come out yet. I'm not sure.
I know it did well enough. They say to actually warrant the sequel.
Yeah,
but like. I guess it came out in October, so and I'm trying to see what the numbers were on it. Let's see. It had a $60 million budget. It did $22 million the opening weekend. It's grossed $58, so it's grossed just under its budget.
Yeah.
For a Tom Cruise movie at this point in time, it's actually not bad.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, those two big sci-fi movies he did a few years ago, both of them didn't do well.
Oblivion and
Edge of Tomorrow. And they're doing a sequel for Edge of Tomorrow, but I don't know why, to be honest, because it didn't do shit box office-wise.
Well, the thing is, like, literally Tom Cruise is so rich now, he can put a movie into production.
Yeah, like, that's the thing, yeah.
It's like Will Smith, for a while there. They were so rich, they could literally put a movie into production. That's the thing. The age of the movie going these days is the landscape is so different from when we were younger. Yeah. Like, things like that.
Well, it looks like, okay, so I'm looking at the box office for Edge of Tomorrow, and it did $28 million its opening weekend, and I think ultimately grossed, let's see, ultimately it grossed $100 million, a little over $100 million in the U.S.
Yeah.
That's not counting the foreign markets. So it seems like, okay, maybe that's enough.
It would warrant a sequel.
Yeah.
The way they look at movies, they could probably get a sequel out of it. If that sequel doesn't do well, then it's done.
But yeah, it made $100 million, but do you remember any buzz about that movie at the time? Do you remember, like, anybody being super excited about it? Like,
fuck tons of trailers for it, but I never gave a fuck about it.
And it seemed conceptually interesting, and it's one that I thought, like, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that, but it wasn't one that I ever thought, I need to go to the theater and see.
The problem was, when that came out earlier on, Matt Damon had done the Elysium movie,
which is very similar, like look wise to it.
Where it had the you're in a mechanical bodysuit type thing, and so it basically just.
And it's the same thing. Actually, Oblivion did better ultimately than it did.
Yeah.
Because it was a $120 million budget. It did almost $40 million its opening weekend. It did about $90 million US. Yeah. So it actually did better. Yeah. And there's no sequel, talk for that one or anything. But I think Tom Cruise ultimately, box office wise, is not remotely near what he was.
That's because of like a lot of stuff to do with like him as a person. Like,
well, look at what Rogue Nation did. I mean, Rogue Nation was the last Mission Impossible, and it actually did relatively well. Yeah. But in comparison to the other Mission Impossible movies, it was a failure.
And that's the thing. Like, I think we're getting to the point where. So, like with Harry Potter, I'll go back to that one, and Lord of the Rings and Hobbits and stuff like that. There was material. There was stuff there. Like Harry Potter had enough material that people love to warrant the 7 or 8 movies.
Yeah.
Same with Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. There was enough there to warrant those movies. Hobbit's questionable, but I mean,
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're looking at like some of these other franchises, like, is there really story there to warrant multiple Mission Impossibles or multiple Underworlds or multiple of these other movies? Like, sometimes you maybe just need to quit at like 2 or 3.
That's the thing with Mission Impossible. It's like, to me, it's hard for me to judge because I don't think any of them were all that good. Mm-hmm. Like, it's mindless action movie with way too overcomplicated a plot.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Tom Cruise, to me, he's in his 50s. Mm-hmm. He's that, like, and he's got to that age, like, he's still a good-looking dude or whatever. Mm-hmm. He's still, like,
but you can only
a believable guy.
So much of a badass.
Yeah, like, Jack Reacher is a believable movie to me because, like, he's that kind of, retired.
It's the Bruce Willis. Yes, the Bruce Willis.
Or, like, Harrison Ford or, like, any of the older guys. Or Liam Neeson or Pierce Brosnan. Like, any of those older action heroes that, like, or Sean Connery, like, they could still make it believable, for a few movies as they're older. And Jack Reacher works because he's kind of like the retired spy, spook or whatever, and he's being brought back in. Like, that makes sense. Yeah. Or, like, even Keanu Reeves with John Wick. Like, he's not as old as Tom Cruise, but he's got that, like, sort of thing. Like, they're pulling me back in sort of thing. And, like, it's a compelling enough thing. But with Mission Impossible, does anybody really believe that 55-year-old Tom Cruise is still a fucking, like, CIA agent or whatever the fuck he's supposed to be? Nobody's going to believe that shit. It would have died. Does anybody really believe that, like, fucking he's out there, like, or for, like, Edge of Tomorrow, that he's out there being a soldier at 50-some-odd years old? I'm sorry, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
And then with the thing with this, like, with Underworld, it's like, and Resident Evil is about to come out with their newest,
final.
Yeah, their final
one.
And fucks have not been given about the last 2, from what I can remember.
Fucks have not been given for the last, like, 1 and 2 were good.
Yeah.
3 started to trail off, and it just went downhill from there. Like, nobody has given a fucks about those movies for a while. But, I mean, again, Mila Jovovich could put those movies through if she wanted to.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though, about her, is that, like, is there really, like, a fucking market for another goddamn Resident Evil movie? Like, is anybody clamoring for this shit?
It's the last one, so I think they're trying to get people to be like, it's the last one, we're gonna go, and see it and stuff. And I'm just like, I don't care, because all the characters from the games and the stories that I liked, you've basically pissed on.
Yeah, Retribution didn't do shit. Yeah. Like, that was in 2012. It was a $65 million budget, and they grossed 42.
Yeah.
That's not even close. Like, internationally, it probably did well, because those movies do.
Yeah.
But, like, it just... Does anybody care about Resident Evil at this point as a franchise? Like, and the off-pissing thing about the entire thing with Resident Evil is that they made it all about a character that's has just shit to do with the games.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a fan of Resident Evil as a game series, what the fuck do you care about the movies? They have nothing to do with it.
You don't.
They have literally nothing to do with it. Like, there's a few characters that are tertiary that are in there that are the main characters of the fucking video game series.
Alice is the fucking super genetic, enhanced badass who constantly...
What's to a level of fucking ridiculousness? Like,
she has, like...
Jesus, Howard Christ,
One of the movies, she had telekinesis, and, like, now then she had, like, a whole army of clones of herself, and, like, a bunch of shit. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was truly ridiculous.
Is there a point where you need to really stop and just say, okay, we beat this fucker into the ground?
Yeah. And see, at least with, like, Underworld, they're trying to transition it off to, like, a newer character. Like, David, Theo James's character, is kind of taking more of the lead you know, it's becoming like a major character. They're trying to pass it to him. I mean,
yeah, it's 2017. That means Tom Cruise is 55 years old. Yeah, come on, like.
I mean, he looks like he's in his 40s, so they can get away with that.
Let's say he's a great-looking dude, whatever. Like, he's still a good actor. It's not like he's a bad actor or anything like that. He's just, like, his time of being a box office titan is not there anymore.
It's the same with, like, Will Smith and Harrison Ford and guys like that. You know, like, eventually it has to, like, pass on. So, I don't know. I think it has a lot to do with what's going on in the mainstream right now, because that is, movies are based around mainstream shit like this. The Return of Xander Cage, XXX, which I even heard this has a cameo with Ice Cube playing his character from the second one.
I'm hearing that they're not thinking this thing's going to make money either.
Oh, probably not.
Because it wouldn't be coming out January 20th if they had any faith in it.
Yeah.
And I know Vin Diesel didn't even fucking want to do it.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's something to do to get other movies made, basically.
Pretty much.
So why should anyone care? Like, if you're to the point... That's another thing with some of these movies. It's like, if you're to the point where the actor is basically flat out being like, yeah, I don't really want to do this. I'm just doing it to get it made.
Yeah.
What motivation is that for me to go see it? Because I felt like Vin Diesel didn't give a shit about the other fucking one that he did.
What?
The other XXX movie. Like, the original one, it felt like he didn't care because he just sort of like, I live for this shit. Like, walked through it. He didn't fucking care in the original. Why does he care now?
But then you look at the Riddick movies. And
he loves those.
And he basically, the last one, he pretty much paid for himself to get done. And even being like, kind of like Pitch Black, how it was like a lower budgeted one, it was fucking great. It felt very similar to the first one, actually. You know?
It was, but here's the thing. Outside of Fast and Furious, and like him being a voice, you know, in Guardians of the Galaxy, what has Vin Diesel done that has made a nickel?
Yeah.
In the last
they're doing another one. Yeah, they're doing the Furia.
This is what I'm saying, though. Like, Vin Diesel as box office is nothing if he's not in a Fast and the Furious movie.
Yeah.
Like, he's not enough to carry a movie anymore.
No.
And I just don't see this making any kind of impact.
Well, that's also, too, is, like, the years of, like, the single action hero is kind of almost passing to where it's, like, now it's the ensemble stuff where, like... Look at it, like, even Marvel is starting to do that now, where, like, their movies, the ones that may not do, they think, as well, they'll start packing them in together. Like, I love Thor, and you love Hulk. We're basically getting a Thor-Hulk movie.
Basically,
I mean, that's what it is. But that's because, comparatively, those movies are not going to make the same as, say, like... For some reason, the Ant-Man or the Guardians or the Captain America Iron Man ones.
Yeah.
You know? Like, so they're starting to find which ones work, which ones don't, and shove them together and kind of making... That's why the whole question of, you know, will they do the Black Widow, or will it be a Black Widow and Hawkeye, or will they just not even fucking do it?
I think that Marvel right now is terrified to break the bubble. Like, this is why we haven't seen this Black Widow movie. Yeah. Because that could be a bubble breaker.
Yeah.
Because it could be the one that comes out that no one cares about.
Yeah. Because, like, look at what they've bought. They have only went in and bought things that win. Like, they bought Marvel, it's winning. They bought Star Wars, it's winning. They bought Pixar. Pixar wins, for the most part. You know?
Disney's not stupid.
Yeah, they will not buy something that doesn't just make... shit tons of money, and they've worked the living shit out of it. How many Marvel, Star Wars animateds are there on the like Disney networks and all that stuff? Literally, the only thing Marvel has that isn't producing, and unfortunately, this is the one, is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, which we'll get into that in a second.
Yeah,
but
I mean, they literally don't go into it.
No,
you know, that way.
And I think that they will not do that Black Widow movie because it's a potential bubble breaker.
Yeah,
it's a potential to be the thing that, and they don't want to be that movie that killed the superhero craze.
Yeah,
and that is a very real possibility. Like, it was scary enough to do Guardians of the Galaxy at the time because you're taking a very a very obscure sort of character, especially mainstream wise.
Yeah,
like. It was dicey enough. They considered, like, Avengers to be dicey.
Yeah.
And then fuck Guardians of the Galaxy, like, it could have gone either way. Like, I'm glad it went the way it did, but I remember when we talked about this before it came out, and both of us were like, fuck, this could go the wrong way.
Yeah.
This could be the killer. Because people might not care, but they were smart enough to do really great trailers, and, like, use music effectively, and use characters effectively, and cast the right people, and it worked. But trying to put out a Black Widow movie, she's not a dynamic character. She's not a character whose backstory is all that interesting and exciting or anything like that. She has no powers or anything like that. You know, you're not,
banking on Scarlett Johansson.
You're banking on the bankability of Scarlett Johansson, which she is popular, but not everything she does is gold.
Has the Ghost in the Shell movie come out? I don't think
Not
it's
yet.
come out yet. That'll be the tale. Like,
will be.
if that Ghost in the Shell movie...
There's a lot of negative heat on that movie.
Tanks and shit like that, then it basically, sorry, Scarlett, you're not... You know,
look at the amount of negative heat that's on that movie right now because of the whitewashing and shit. Like, there's a lot of negativity in that movie, and if it doesn't do well, that's really going to be something. It's like, it reminds me very much of when, like, Mila Jovovich did Ultraviolet.
Yeah.
Like, and granted, that movie's fucking terrible.
Oh god, it's so bad.
But they tried to do movies like, you know, or when they tried to make Charlize Theron an action hero and shit, like when they tried to do Aeon Flux.
Yeah.
And, like, look at Aeon Flux, how hard that bombed.
Which sucks, because everybody I know loved that show.
Yeah.
Like, that show was fucking...
But the movie
sucks.
Oh, good lord.
Because there are certain things that just don't need to be made into live-action movies. And like I said, I think we are firmly, deeply in the grips of the superhero age.
Yeah.
And that's good and bad, because you look at a lot of these other movies, and... A lot of movies don't make what they used to make. You know, look at, like, go back in the day, like, remember Brad Pitt, like Troy? Remember what that did? Or like Titanic? Or they're trying to bring out these Avatar movies again, and I'm like, you're gonna try and bring out a 2 and a 3 of Avatar, big blue fucking bunnies fucking and shit, you know, against superhero movies. And even superhero movies are like, if your superhero movies aren't strong, like the Spider-Man ones, they're dying off, you know. Like,
I can tell you, to me, the reason Avatar made money is because it was innovative. It was pretty. And it's something
right when
really,
those 3D stuff really came out.
He took full advantage of what the height of the 3D. But now, it's not innovative anymore. Everybody's doing this, you know, that kind of thing. The 3D is not going to be a thing anymore. Like, it exists, but it's not as popular as it was. And I just don't feel like it's a story and a world that merits multiple movies, because I fucking hated it. It sucked. I'm sorry.
It was visually beautiful, but it was Dances with Wolves.
It's Dances with Wolves with Blue Rabbits fucking. Like,
and I never saw a sequel to Dances with Wolves.
No, and it didn't need one. That's the thing. Like, I don't feel like Avatar warrants a sequel. I don't feel like there's a bunch of stories in that world I need to hear, and I don't care. I could barely get through the one that they made. The only thing that got me through it is how pretty it was.
And the creatures. And
the creatures are cool, but even, like, I don't even like the creature design in that movie. They look weird as fuck to me. Like, there's nothing, I don't know, there's, like, it's a visually appealing movie, but ultimately when you break it down, it's not that great. It's very basic story. It's like written kind of haphazardly. And the characterizations are very vague and, like, very stereotypical. Like, it's just not, I don't know, like, in a different time when the superhero craze wasn't happening, when there wasn't all these great, big, huge, awesome, visually appealing movies, Avatar sequels may have made, you know, a huge impact.
And that's the other problem, too, is, like, it's like time. A lot of these things are trying to make sequels way beyond when the originals came out, and it's like... And they're not transitioning. Like, if you had done Resident Evil and then transitioned Mila Jovovich out and given us, like, actual characters from the game and, like, good actors for them, it might have survived. But it's basically like, it's Mila Jovovich Resident Evil. Cool, congratulations.
Yeah, it's beating a dead horse.
Yeah, you know,
it's been dead 3 movies ago.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is, like, also time period wise, video game movies.
Nobody cares.
Nobody, like, I hate to say it, but video game movies are never a bank. Like, they thought Assassin's Creed was going to be...
It did nothing.
It tanked. Because the expectations for a video game movie...
Are too high. Like, there's been too many failures, too. Like, you can count on one hand the amount of video game-based movies that have been successful and been good. and you can count on a million hands how many
sucked and bombed and shit, and that's kind of where it's at. Like, a lot of these movies are trying, and if right now we weren't solely in the grips of the big superhero craze, a lot of these movies would probably do better. A lot of them.
There's a lot of franchises, like video game franchise wise, that could potentially be adapted well into a movie or a series of movies. But they can't do it. They've never been able to successfully do it.
They can't. Because, you know why?
Look how long they tried to do the Halo movie and it didn't ever materialize.
And the reason why, and this is like my belief, solely belief when it comes to video game movies, is because I never play the game the same way you play it.
Yeah.
The video game is always different for the player.
Yeah.
Now, when you read books and you read comics and stuff, there's like, you kind of interpret things a little bit different but for the most part, you know, you're kind of seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
But when you play a video game, I play a video game very differently from, you know, the next guy. So it's like everyone's going in expecting their playthrough.
Well, and it's also like with Warcraft, this is a problem. Mm-hmm. Like when they talk about doing, you know, Dragon Age stuff or fucking Mass Effect stuff, it's like, here's the thing. These are RPG games.
Yeah.
And your Shepard for Mass Effect is completely different from my Shepard. Or completely different from Bob, Joe, and Billy's fucking Shepard.
And who they have in their group and what they do
like
with
Dragon
all those
Age,
choices.
Like, especially because in Dragon Age, like, unless you just adapted the second game because Hawk is a strong character or whatever, but like the Warden is a completely blank character.
Yeah.
Blank race, blank fucking ethnicity, blank
everything,
blank. What's the word I'm looking for? Gender, all that shit's blank. And even Shepard in Mass Effect is blank when it comes to that shit.
Yeah,
because you could be a girl or a guy.
You just have a name.
Yeah, you're just a name.
Literally just
you are Shepard. Like, and it's like you can't please anybody with these movies.
You're not.
The only proper way, like, I hate to say it, but like, to me, Mass Effect would not work as a movie as well as it would work as a show.
Yeah.
Because you could do Mass Effect as a show because there's a million stories to tell from that world.
Yeah. Like,
and it doesn't have to be about Shepard.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, when they made the animated movie, they picked a character who was a character in the game, but they told his story, and it was really good.
Exactly. Because that's a smart way to do it. When they did the anime, that's a smart way to do it. It's like you pick Freddie Prinze's character or whatever.
Yeah.
He's an interesting character. You want to know more about that guy? Yep. Okay, let's tell his story.
Or Dragon Age, the two movies they did. There was Talus, who was Felicia Day's character. We watched the movie on that. That was cool. And then they did the one on Cassandra. Right. I hate that fucking bitch, but you know what? It was cool to see her story. It was a great movie to see her story.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. Like, pick the non-blank canvas characters.
And we just saw this with Assassin's Creed. Like, your Assassin's Creed guy is not going to be the same.
Yeah.
Again, as like, and I haven't played the games, but I know enough about them to know there is some level of choice there.
Yeah.
And there is some level of shit. It's like trying to adapt any of these RPG games into movies. It just doesn't work. Like Warcraft is another example of that. It's like your Warcraft story, because it's an MMO for like the old games weren't, but like,
and that's what this was. This was not actually supposed to be based off the MMO. This was supposed to be made off the computer ones.
Yeah. And like, it works.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, what was popular here, and, you know, predominantly popular, was the MMO, and there's no way to tell those stories.
Yeah.
Because, like, you watch that Warcraft movie, and most of those character races and stuff, like, either you see a brief glimpse of them, or you see none of them at all.
Yeah.
Like, most of the, like, you don't see Taurens, and you don't see, like, you know, those blue elf things, and you don't see
Draenei,
goblins, pretty much. Like, you see Draenei, but you see them very briefly.
And you see dwarves.
But,
like,
but for about 5 seconds at the beginning of the movie, like...
the elves. They show the elves for a second. But the elves they show are not the fucking night elves. They show, like, the regular white looking, and those are blood elves, and those are on a completely, like, there's issues with it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, whereas we're over Warcraft in our country, Warcraft is still
huge. Yeah.
Huge in other countries.
That was a case, I think, with the Warcraft movie, and we talked about this when we reviewed it. Like, it's a case of it came out at the wrong time.
Yeah.
If you'd have released that movie at the height of the popularity of the MMO, it probably would have made gangbusters here.
Yeah.
But right now, like, people don't give a shit about Warcraft anymore.
Well, it's superheroes.
Yeah.
Superhero movies are what's in. Like, that's the thing. But the thing, usually the phases of these, like, superhero movies are, like, you know, are these types of movies are a lot shorter, but superheroes is, like, going. The only things that have been able to like kind of break in is like you had Jurassic World and you had like, you know, the Harry Potters and like different things like that. But for the most part, like these superheroes, because they're building these universes and they're just introducing more. That's the thing, is like people are talking about like fatigue and stuff, but at the same time, every comic book fan has so many favorites. Like, I'm a Shazam, fucking Wonder Woman, Thor, Green Lantern. Like, these are some of my favorites. You like Cap, Hulk, Thing. You know, like, there's a bunch of difference that you like, too. Superman. And we're getting to see multiple things, you know? So it's like, on some level, sure, there's this fatigue. But on the other, it's like you just keep getting more jazzed. You're just like, yes, more fucking characters that I've wanted to see. So it's like...
But ultimately, we both know that eventually there's going to be that one movie that doesn't make money or doesn't make the right amount of money.
Yeah.
And it's going to pop that bubble.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's Black Widow, man. If they try to make that movie, I'm telling you, it's
there are some people that are wondering about the Black Panther movie. Like,
again, I wonder if that is enough, like, to carry
He was cool in Civil War. Good actor. Great suit. Good action sequences. You're going to have to do a lot, though. Like...
It's not just Black Widow. It's like... It's any of these characters that are one small... Like, even Hulk has not been able to sustain movies. And Hulk is a major, huge, awesome character. Like, even Superman has not really sustained, you know, movies. Like, yeah, the first Superman movie, it did money or whatever, but it was highly not liked.
Yeah.
And then Batman and Superman, flawed as hell, but still a good movie.
Yeah.
Even it didn't perform as great as they thought it would.
Yeah.
So if Batman and Superman can't sustain a movie, then how's Hawkeye or Black Widow going to fucking sustain a movie?
Like, and that's the thing. Is
like this is why I think that they killed that Inhumans movie, because I don't think that they thought it could bank.
Because like the little bit they showed on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well, the thing is, and let's transition to that. The thing is, no one's watching S.H.I.E.L.D.
No.
Nobody's watched. They barely scraped to 2 million viewers this week, and that is a fucking bad time because it's renewal season.
Yeah,
and I mean, all of the CW shows just got renewed,
and new ones. They brought back Constantine and put him like this was a thing that got killed by another network. They picked it up, started showing it. People have literally clamored for this motherfucker so much they put him in their shows. They put him in the movie. Matt Ryan does the voice for Constantine, and people are so excited about it that they're like, you know what? Let's do an animated with him. And there's talk, I got to read the article and see, but apparently the animated might be a continuation from where the first season was.
Yeah.
Like, it might just go straight into it. And if that's the case, you know, again, it's still connected to the Arrowverse. Like, people can say what they want about the Arrowverse stuff, like, oh, you know, everything has to be dark and brooding like Batman and stuff, but I'm like, for the network it's on, it's fucking rocking it. All those shows are fucking rocking it. Like, their animateds are good and solid and shit like that. Marvel's one fucking live action show has basically struggled from fucking day one.
Well, that, and like, everyone was convinced when they announced Legends that Legends would be a one season wonder and not go any further than
like
that.
Carter, like the Agent
Carter and shit. But like Legends has sustained now into the second season and already been renewed for a third, and there's no their momentum is solid. Like, ratings wise, all of those CW shows are doing extremely well, you know, for the network that they're on. But as opposed to, you've got S.H.I.E.L.D. on ABC, and it's barely stayed afloat, and it's barely staying afloat now.
But then you look at
there's a solid possibility it's not going to get renewed.
Yeah, and you look at its counterparts, the Netflix shows, and those are all very strong.
Yeah.
Like, very strong, doing very well. You know, like, we just saw pictures from the new Defenders stuff. Iron Fist hasn't even come out, and they're showcasing stuff from the Defenders.
Yeah.
You know, and talking about things like that. Like, they expect these shows to perform well on Netflix.
But again, though, like we talked about last week, Netflix isn't ratings like a network is. And if you put any of these shows on a network, I don't see them doing well because you'd have to neuter them so badly and shit.
And that's
the thing. Yeah. Like, you couldn't put any of these shows on ABC and let them run.
And they know that. And that, like, the one show that they had to, like, tiptoe and do different things, and like, it's, again, their main character is a loved character, but again, he's a tertiary character.
Well, I feel like this darker direction that they tried to go with it, honestly, was a mistake.
Yeah.
Because what separated it from everything else was that its tone was lighter.
Yeah.
And now when you darken it, what you're doing is just showing everybody that you can't do what the Netflix shows are doing.
Yeah.
And in trying to do a lighter version of that, it just doesn't work.
But I predict we probably will see a Ghost Rider thing coming out of it. I mean,
it's entirely possible.
Not like a show on ABC, but we might see a Netflix Ghost Rider show because apparently the Ghost Rider stuff went over pretty well. But I mean, as far as like S.H.I.E.L.D. itself, you haven't really had a character to latch on to. Like a lot of the characters that you want to latch on to, shit happens to them, and it's like they become unlikable characters, or it's like, you know, like look at it, like they took two characters that were really liked on that show and fucking got rid of them, and well, we were going to give them a show, but then we were like, meh, you know, or they took characters before that were liked and basically turned them bad, killed them off, did all kinds of stuff. Like,
this is a very difficult time. Even franchises that have been traditionally strong are struggling to get a grip. Like even like with all the news about the Star Trek series, the new Star Trek series, like it's been delayed 3 times. Like they're just now going into production on it, and it's supposed to be coming out in May, which there's no fucking way that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And like it's just been a struggle to just get it made, and hell, it's not even going to be on the network, the main network. It's going to be on the fucking streaming service for fuck's sake.
And there's that's actually probably one of the biggest things. That is what has fundamentally changed the scope of all of it, both movies, TV, all of it is streaming.
Is streaming like Netflix and Hulu and all these streaming services, is it killing network television, and is it killing part of box office revenue?
Yes, because no longer are the consumers beholden to when they dictate when things come out and stuff. We watch what we want to watch when we want to watch it. We'll watch as much of it as we want. We'll binge watch a whole fucking season. We'll binge watch a whole series. Or we'll watch 2 episodes and say, fuck that, I'm never watching it again. You know, I'll watch 6 movies in a row. I'll watch a half a movie. You know, like, come back to it. We are now in the age of, like, everyone lives at their own pace, you know, type stuff. Like, the nerds, the jocks, everything, like, all that stuff. We read things, we watch things, we game things, we do all these things when we choose to do it. We choose to make life, for the most part, except for like work and different things like that. We've now grown into a society where we dictate when that stuff happens.
Like we live in an on-demand world right now, and like what motivation do people have to wait weekly to watch a series unfold when you can go to Netflix and watch an entire season in a row and get the full story,
the full scope of it and stuff. Now some people still like episode to episode, because there is a blaring difference between episode to episode, like episodic stuff, and then like full season stuff. Like we'll go ahead and say, as far as like the Netflix series, I love them as seasons, but as individual episodes,
they don't translate.
And they're built that way. They even said they're built that way.
They're not as memorable as a per episode basis. What they're memorable for is a season. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, it depends on what you're looking for. But like, honestly, like with DVR, with Netflix, with Hulu, with all this streaming that's available right now, the motivation for people to go out to a movie, or B, fucking go watch a series on a regular television is dwindling. And they really have got to figure out.
I'll catch it when it hits Netflix.
Exactly. And we say it ourselves. Like, oh, that looks like a rental, or oh, that looks like it's something I'd watch on Netflix. But what's the motivation for me to go out and pay $10 to watch it at a fucking theater with a bunch of yahoos and pay a massive amount for food or whatever while you're there, when you can wait 3 months and watch it on Netflix for free at home in the comfort of your own fucking bed or whatever.
Or,
the motivation is not there anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of...
You really got to show people something really fucking compelling, or they're not going to go see it. And that's the thing. And that's another thing that's killing these franchises like that. Is like, if the world of Netflix and Hulu and all that shit didn't exist, Would a movie like this Underworld movie have made more money? I think it would have.
Probably, yeah.
But when I'm looking at those trailers, I'm looking at something like, I picked that up on DVD, or I picked that up on, watched it on Netflix or whatever. And that's exactly what happened with that last Underworld movie with me. I was like, I'll just pick it up on DVD. It looks fun, but whatever.
Yeah.
Or I'll wait till it hits the cheap seats. Like, that's the thing that I used to say before Netflix. Like, I'll just wait till it hits the cheap seats. But now I'm like, fuck it. I'm not going to even go pay $2 for it. I'll just wait till it gets on streaming.
Because you got to deal with people. That's the other thing, too, is like our world has kind of become this weird flip-flop, antisocial, introverted thing. So it's like
what the expansion of like what we do and with social media in general and all that shit is.
You don't have to deal with.
You don't have to deal with motherfuckers anymore.
Yeah.
like
unless you absolutely want to, you don't got to deal with nobody.
It's gonna become that fucking world of like surrogates and shit, where like it's a complete fucking world where no one goes out and fucks with anybody.
Just like in a pod, like the robots are doing
like those little fat people and shit.
And
Wall-E. Yeah, like we're
never gonna become like that.
Become that society.
Nope, I'll be off in the woods. Like fuck all you fatties on your little. I know
it's a real thing to me. It is like. What motivation to like we saw this happen with traditional radio, with like FM radio and shit, when XM came out and when satellite radio and shit came out. Like who listens to the fucking radio stations anymore? People
podcasts,
and podcasts and stuff. Like who's gonna watch a traditional like talk show or whatever when you can go online and watch one, or who's gonna listen to a radio show when you can listen to a podcast anytime you want to? That is a thing. Like this culture has bred out waiting and has bred out like the traditional forms of media. I would
say the last bastion of things that still dictate are like concerts. Like concerts are still in people's mind worth waiting for, and
even that people watch concert streaming at this point.
I know, but even then it's still that hasn't, because there is something different about being at a live music venue and seeing music live as opposed to watching it streaming, and that will always be that way.
It will exist, yeah.
So that's why that will probably always still stay.
But even concert tickets are on the decline.
Yeah.
Or even going and watching like live wrestling or live UFC and stuff. Yeah. They make more money on pay-per-view, or they make more money on TV. Because people don't want to go. They don't want to pay $30 for a ticket.
Yeah, because if I want to watch UFC, I want to watch it in the comfort of my own fucking awesome couch with a fucking pizza and all this stuff. I don't want to go sit on a fucking folding chair in Las Vegas with a bunch of fucking drunk,
fucking Ed Hardy wearing douchebags.
Like bunch of shitbags
I'm good.
Drunk on shit. Like, I don't care. You know why? Because I know what's going to happen. Most of these motherfuckers now are going to get knocked out in the first round.
And that's the thing. Like with wrestling, it's a thing too. Because like when I was a kid, I couldn't wait to go see a wrestling show. But now it's like, man, I can barely motivate myself to fucking watch it on TV, and it's free.
There's also things like there's a difference like when you actually go to a live wrestling thing as opposed to watch it. Because the stories feel different. Because of the way you see it, the way it's marketed to you.
You don't hear the announcers. You don't hear a lot of the story being told that way. It's like it's a very different thing. And
you're literally there for the matches. And the problem is, like, honestly, the wrestling these days, on some levels, aren't as good as they used to be.
Yeah.
Like, it's more flashier. It's more like high, like, I wouldn't even say high flying because it's not necessarily that. It's like there's this level of flash and showiness to it, but that's great. But some of my best matches that I love to watch are going back to like the old days when it was just big barrel chested motherfuckers just beat slamming the shit out of each other. It wasn't watching some little cruiserweight guy, sissy slap the other cruiserweight guy.
Yeah.
It was watching these two ginormous motherfuckers, like literally giants of humanity, beat the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
Like, you watch Ultimate Warrior pick a dude up over his head and just body slam him. You see somebody do that now, you're like, who gives a fuck? You know? Like, Braun Strowman body slammed some tiny guy. Who cares?
Yeah, who gives a rat's ass?
But you watch this dude who's literally just fucking pulsating muscles lift another dude who's giant muscles and slam him. Or like when Hulk Hogan lifted up Andre the Giant. Shit like that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, watching the Legion of Doom versus the Towers of Terror and shit like that. Like, watching these guys fucking just go at it like lock horns and stuff. It's like, it's insane. Yeah. But nowadays, it's like, it's so flashy, so much flash. And it's like, it's kind of, that's why like NXT does so well, because it's for the guys who love the wrestling.
Yeah.
Whereas like the main shows are the storylines. And even then, the storylines these days are not great.
Speaking of wrestling, I'd be remiss if we didn't mention the death of Superfly Jimmy Snuka.
Yeah, I feel bad for his daughter, Tamina.
I do. I feel bad for, and he has other kids too.
All of them.
But I feel bad, like, It's unfortunate that like so much has happened in the last few years. Like most of his noteworthy news in the last 3 years now has been about the death of his girlfriend in the 80s, and they were trying to charge him with murder for it because they gathered more information and stuff. And just like a week before he died, they just finally threw it out and said he wasn't able to stand trial because he was he's fully in dementia and he's dying, basically. Yeah. But like, it kind of tarnishes the end of, the life of somebody who had a really fantastic career in the ring and who is like an iconic, member of the rock and wrestling era. And I have good fond memories of Jimmy Snuka as a kid and watching the Superfly. He was like
one of the original like high flyers. Like you look at all the like super high fly moves and stuff like that. All of them are like great, but they'll not compare to that moment where he got up on the cage.
And when he took like, Don Morocco off the top of the fucking cage, in Madison Square Garden, like
just watching that man hit that much air off the top of the cage. You don't even see that many people these days jumping off cages and watching him, and he was a big guy. That's the thing is like comparatively to that group, he was a smaller guy. But when you look at like the high flyers now, to him, he was ripped and big and like doing this just insane aerial move and splashing these guys, and it's like that's where the basis was.
Yeah, and therein lies the rub when it comes to like physiques and stuff, because like now in the world of steroids being not as much of a thing, we're starting to see the natural physiques being the predominance in wrestling, and it's a fucked up trade-off because you want to kind of see these big gladiator guys with big muscles and stuff, but it's not a healthy thing. And so what you end up with is these chicken-chested motherfuckers like Heath Slater and shit out there that weigh $120 soaking wet. And I'm
like,
supposed to believe he's kicking like someone's ass,
slapping each other and shit like that. But like that's even the thing too, is like when you remember back to like the good old days, these guys weren't even like. These weren't like roid guys. These were like power lifter guys. Like they were barrel chested and just big. Fatty muscle, like not even like big ripped, veiny fucking like Batista guys. These were like big dudes that were just like, holy crap, that's your cornbread uncle from Nebraska, big.
Exactly.
So I mean, there's that era of that, like Strowman. Strowman is actually a good.
He's a throwback.
He's a throwback physique.
Him and Russian fucker. Rusev, like guys like that, and Bray Wyatt, and like all those Wyatt guys and stuff. Like they're all that kind of throwback, to another era. Yeah, it's unfortunate to see Jimmy Snuka pass because he's another one of that class of people that like, Roddy Piper and Dusty Rhodes and all those guys are gone, and it's just like that. Our '80s legends,
all the childhood guys
are dying.
Like,
Ultimate Warrior's gone. Like there's a few guys still around, like Hacksaw and
my two are gone. Piper and Ultimate Warrior are gone. Yeah. So for me. The last one is like Sting and Undertaker.
Dusty and Piper were very important to me, and they're both gone. And it's hard to see the legends of that era passing now for kids of the '80s like us. But it's unfortunate, and like my heart goes out to his family and all of his friends. And he casts a long shadow in the world of wrestling, and he will be missed. Yeah. And hopefully, we can kind of ignore what's happened. Not ignore necessarily. But
but I mean, still remember
his career and not necessarily the bad stuff.
Yeah. And then there was the good news of Kurt Angle.
Yeah, that was a big piece of wrestling news. Is Kurt Angle is being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, which is a big deal. Yeah. Because he hasn't had association with the company in over 10 years. Yeah. He's been with TNA for the predominance of his career at this point. Yeah. And having them bring him in for the Hall of Fame definitely opens a lot of doors, for him to come back into the company and be part of things again.
Look at what's happened for all the other people. Whether it's attached to the video game or the Hall of Fame.
The Hall of Fame is a big deal.
The Hall of Fame is a big deal. They brought in Sting, the game, the Hall of Fame, like different shit like that, like different people depending on what it is, whether it's the 2K game or it's the Hall of Fame, that usually equals something. Yep. That equals like you're going to be involved storyline wise somehow. And I mean, he's still in good enough shape to do a couple matches. Yeah, nobody thought a guy Goldberg
that has been gone long enough that could make an impact and could make money.
I mean, hell, you saw the reaction when Mickie James just showed back up. People were like, "What the shit?" Because hate to say it, but the women's division is dying for a good
infusion of solid talent.
Yeah, because like God love them, like Sasha, Bayley, like Becky, Natalia, they're all really good people. But the problem is like they're just storylines they're giving these girls.
Well, yeah, and a lot of in a lot of cases, the personality is very lacking with these girls.
Then that's the thing; they're not giving the enough You give the guys all these over the top personalities, but the girls don't get one. Charlotte Flair and Sasha are probably the two most over the top ones. Bayley's just loved because everybody loves a homely bitch, and Nia Jax is a fucking monster.
Yeah,
but other than that, does anybody else give a fuck about nobody gives a fuck about Nikki Bella anymore because
who
Brie's
could possibly
gone.
Fucking care?
Well, Brie's gone, so the Bella twin things is done.
Yeah,
nobody gives a fuck about that. Nobody gives a fuck about Carmella because
God no,
she's just horrible. All the way around the world, she's horrible. People love Natalya because she's kind of a throwback, because for the Hart Foundation,
the Hart family connection,
and she actually has been doing pretty well. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got Summer Rae and Lana and fucking Maurice and stuff, and they're half-ass, personalities, but no wrestling. They pretty much condemned Alicia Fox to fucking the Saturday wrestling thing.
Yeah.
She just got fucking dumped by her cruiserweight boyfriend.
Yeah.
And shit. She got, shit canned to that.
But Mickey is a throwback to, the early 2000s in that area where the women all had distinct personalities and storylines that made sense and that meant something.
Yeah. So
she's from the era of Trish and Lita and those guys that actually drew money, and made a difference.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. The other piece of big wrestling news this week is there's a possibility, and nothing is finalized yet, but there's a strong possibility that Lucha Underground is going to Netflix, and that could be a potential game changer.
Yeah. Again, because that right there,
and it ties back into what we were talking about with the Netflix thing.
Yeah. And and the thing about Lucha Underground is they are completely designed for it. If you've ever watched Lucha Underground, it's
telling a continual season story.
It's a whole season story. It's super theatrical. Mm-hmm. There is insanely solid wrestling. Mm-hmm. Some of the best out there.
Oh god, yeah.
Their stories are fucking throwbacks to those classic 80s over the top oh my god stories. And
not only are they putting out some of the best wrestling out there right now, but they've also got compelling characters. They've got complex storylines. They're using theatrical stuff to the point where they actually have a connected storyline that goes through the entire season.
Yeah,
their announcing is higher level. And it's actually storytelling, announcing. They've got guys like Rey Mysterio in there now. They've got Johnny Mundo. They've got a lot of international stars. That they've got that Hispanic market locked the fuck down.
Everybody loves good solid lucha, but they're combining good solid lucha with a lot of these new guys that are combining elements of Japanese luchador, good technical American wrestling, and combining them into these elements that are just great. But then on top of that, they're telling fantastic stories that span an entire thing.
Yeah.
They don't just shit can a story it's not going over well with the audience, so we'll shit can it.
Solely because they don't live to die on a week-to-week ratings basis. And this is the problem with WWE, is that they live and die on the week-to-week ratings. And even at this point, TNA is starting to get the idea that it's more interesting to tell a big, connected, interesting story than to with the worry about your ratings and shit constantly.
If TNA could have gotten something like this, on a Hulu,
could have been huge.
It would have.
But right now, this is a huge deal,
them,
because this could be a serious competition, and this could really make them a number 2.
And this could be where all those TNA guys want to go to.
Yeah,
because
it could be huge. Yeah, it really could be.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. I really hope it goes through, because that would be. That would be just ridiculous game changers, because everybody loves the network for the WWE network for
the old stuff.
To watch the old stuff, to get the free pay-per-views, maybe to watch some of their new content.
Guess,
it depends.
But not much of it, to be honest.
Yeah,
man.
That's the thing. Would I continue my fucking Netflix subscription to be able to watch Lucha Underground every fucking week and stuff? God, yes. Hey, here's the full season. If they did it like Netflix with those, where they drop a whole season of Lucha, in one hit.
I'm watching it and I'm power watching.
I'm gonna start. I'm gonna fucking binge watch the shit out of that.
Exactly.
That would be ridiculous.
It's gonna be interesting to see how that folds out. I really do hope it comes to fruition. Now we haven't done Kickstarters of the week in a while, but I've got
because it really hasn't been too much.
I've got 6. on my list that, like, basically usually what I do is Kickstarter is nice enough to tell you when your friends back things.
Yeah.
So you can kind of check out projects. There's a few projects I want to mention. First, I want to mention that Casey Pierce's project, the Pieces of Madness Expanded Edition, they're doing a hardcover of Pieces of Madness with new content in there, with illustration and with new story content. That one is already 110% funded, and it's got 26 days to go. So big success there, and congratulations to Casey. If you were a fan of Pieces of Madness, or if you're a fan of Nora, or any of Casey's work, you want to go ahead and check that one out for sure. They're at 2,210 right now, 26 days to go.
So you got some time.
So you have time, but go ahead and check that one out. Also, one that I thought was interesting is called Strange Horror: Tales of Fright Beyond the Ordinary. It's got 28 days to go. It's 19% funded, $192 pledged. It's a horror comic with 3 new 40-page full-color digital issues that are in the sort of Lovecraftian vein and classic pulp storytelling with horror, and I really love that. Yeah. The project's run by Gary Scott Beatty. Check that one out. There's a video. You can watch everything. Again, you got 28 days to go on that one. We have Angel and the World Enders, issue 1 from Chris Hartman. This one kind of looks like a mech steampunk future sort of space opera. It kind of has
like if you liked Tank Girl and like, you like that like new dystopian if you like Astropunk, future.
You might like this one. Like that one's got 22 days to go. They're 58% funded, so they're doing really good.
Yep.
$2,046. So go ahead and check that one out too. Tesla #1. It's kind of a teen to college age superhero story. I believe it's all ages.
Yeah.
It's 48% funded with 26 days to go. 1,688.
I feel like this one's kind of in the vein of like a female version of like Static Shock,
yeah.
Or like Black Lightning's Daughter. Like if you like those stories, I think this might be something you guys would be interested in.
This one is kind of interesting. Voodoo Legends. It's kind of in the world of underground voodoo in New Orleans. It looks very interesting. This one is got 29 days to go, so it just started. It's 3% funded already with $175. You can check that one out. And then also, the Written Sins Network has been a supporter of our show and what we do, and they've run articles about us and everything too. So I want to mention that Rob Anderson has his Kickstarter, Fetish Babies #1. Rob, I'm going to be honest with you, I hate the title. It grosses me out.
It's very interesting. You're like, what is it about?
But it's about an exploration of a woman's fetishes in the New York City fetish scene. So it's kind of very much a bondage BDSM sort of thing.
Yeah.
Again, not my scene, but there's a lot of people interested in that.
Yeah,
they're doing really well.
Stuff.
42% funded, 27 days to go, $842 pledged. So
that's pretty good.
If you're a fan of what Rob does, Rob has been, I'll give Rob a lot of credit. He's been a tireless supporter of independent comic book projects and independent Kickstarters. So it is one of those situations where it's kind of like a time to give back. Rob is one of the contributors to our GoFundMe when we needed the new laptop too. So I'm going to make sure that I gave him a shout out on here.
Yes.
So those are all the Kickstarter projects we got. You can go to Kickstarter.com for more and follow your fellow creators and follow your fellow indie fans on there, because you can get updates on a lot of projects that you may not necessarily see that might fly under the radar if you're not connected in there. So it's a really good way to do it.
I was going to talk about they had just the second month of the LARP box is supposed to be coming out here soon. And the first one was very much classic fantasy, like Dungeons and Dragons, that type of stuff. Month 2 is all about post-apocalyptic, like LARPing stuff. So if that's something you guys are like into, I would definitely.
You obviously are.
I definitely am. So I would definitely be wanting it. I would check it out. I think you still have plenty of time to like order it and check it out. It's pretty cool idea as far as the LARP stuff. I mean, they give you nice little little accessories and fun things for you.
It's one of the cooler box things I've seen.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of those box services out there right now. It's one of the coolest ones I've seen.
There's so many fucking box services.
So I would definitely check that out too.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
I wanted to mention that and it went out of my head, like just woohoo, out on the fucking train, man.
Shit right out.
No, I wanted to mention that today, as we're recording, is January the 18th, and that, of course, you guys may remember from last year or the year before, is my daughter's birthday. I want to mention the original Basement Baby's birthday, so happy birthday to my daughter, even though she won't listen to this, but she is the light of my life, and she is always support to her dad and loves the fact that her dad is a podcaster and wants to grow up.
Has smelly feet and
she does.
Smells.
She wants to grow up to make YouTube videos and be a podcaster herself, and I was like, my God, why don't you... I love that, but please, God, pick a profession that actually makes money.
She just wants to make, like, Minecraft
She does. She loves the Minecraft, and she doesn't know it yet, but I'm planning an awesome Minecraft cake for her that is going to be... I'll definitely post some pictures of it on Friday when her birthday party happens. So everybody say a little happy birthday to her if you get a chance on the interwebs, as it were. Did you have any news items before we wrap it up that you wanted to touch on?
Not really.
No, I think we're good there. I think we mentioned pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to congratulate Night Mage Michael Wilson for being voted best male cosplayer of the year. This guy is a guy who tirelessly works. He's a police officer. He's an amazing cosplayer, and he's a guy who does tons of charity work and goes out and does Santa Claus stuff for kids, and goes and pays. At Christmas he went and paid off layaways for people at Toys R Us. Like, he is a guy who really has a heart for kids, and a guy who really loves comics and has a heart for the business, and is really an impressive guy. So huge congratulations to him for that honor, and he is well deserved, I think. So I think that's everything. Is it shilling time?
Yep. Dance.
Oh no, I know what we didn't mention. Holy shit, we got the colors this week on the cover of issue number 1 of a digital webcomic, The Basement of Doom, and it is absolutely fucking gorgeous.
I love the color choices.
My eternal love goes to the Legacy Rising and Mike Watson and the guys who were writing and drawing this book. Like, I made a post about it the other day, but 4 years ago when we started doing this, there's no way we ever would have imagined that one of the results of it would be that we would be the basis of a comic.
Oh no, I always knew.
Okay.
I was like, some motherfucker's gonna love me so damn much, they're gonna make me into a comic.
They're gonna make Metzger into an impish demon.
Yep. And I get to beat the shit out of him relentlessly.
Poor Pogues. But no, I couldn't be happier. When we saw the colors, it was just like, man, it just explodes off the page. And even though it's a digital comic, I hope that we'll get to see it in print form at some point too, depending on the success of it. So when it actually starts coming, please God, go read it and make them want to make it into a real comic for us. And I hope at least we get prints of the cover because it's
it's gonna be sweet.
So I can't wait for that. But it is shilling time.
Dance.
If you like what you heard this week on the Basement Fodder podcast, you can of course always find us at our network home of digitalnerdage.com. Where there's a plethora of nerdy shows to watch. To listen to on there, including the flagship show of the Digital Nerdage podcast. You can catch back issue-esque shows of our other shows. It came from the Q, and of course the Todd Files. You can find us on Facebook under just a myriad of spaces. Todd of Basement Fodder, Dave of Basement Fodder, the original Basement Babe, the Den Mother of Doom, the Basement of Doom, Basement Fodder Podcast, The Todd Files, It Came From the Q, and of course, Todd and Dave. My name is not fucking Todd Dave. So
apparently that's a really big, issue for people. They can't seem to, not.
Every convention we go to, hey, that's Todd Dave. No, motherfucker, my name is Todd and his name is Dave. Yeah. Do you think my name is Todd Dave and his name is Dave Todd? Is that what... I think that's what people think of us sometimes.
We should do that. We should just get name tags where it's Dave Todd and then yours says Todd Dave. And people will go, what the shit? And be like, is it easier to understand now, motherfuckers?
You can find us on Spreaker, YouTube, iTunes, and of course on our website, thebasementofdoom.wordpress.com.
Napster, Livewire.
Schnapster. Those things exist
anymore?
No. Schnapster.
But I just like saying them because... Yeah.
And of course on Instagram and Twitter at Basement Fodder and at Titan Trap Customs if you're in the mood for custom action figures. And I think that's going to wrap it up for this week's edition of the Basement Fodder podcast. As always, from the Basement of Doom, I'm Todd.
I'm Dave Todd.
I'm Todd David. He's Tave Todd. Tave Todd?
Dave.
Who's Tave Todd?
Tay's on day. Chocolate rain. And go now.
Until next time, the basement door is closed.
Later.